In a situation like that, they may call it a strategic default if all of a sudden you stop paying on the April house, right? Does everyone understand strategic default? That was the term that was big a few years ago. So you're sitting with them, you're determining there's a hardship. You're determining there's negative equity in the property. So two key indicators that there's a potential short sale here. Just because there's an auction, let's say they disclose to you, oh my gosh, I have an auction in 45 days. They're gonna auction my house. Again, it doesn't mean it's a short sale. I've had plenty of people call me and say, can you help us with this auction? And when the agent and I sit down and look at the numbers, there's equity in the property. So put it on the market as soon as you can and try to sell. If you sell, then before the auction, there's no short sale. So there's determining factors. They have to be upside down, negative equity. And Nick will get into that in a little bit further into the presentation on how close maybe they have equity or non-equity. But you want to look at those key factors when you're sitting to do your listing agreement with a homeowner that may be a potential short sale. So,
if it's a strategic default, can the bank go after your new home? Can put a
they would
lien
have
on?
to go after you in court and get a judgment against you. I don't know that they could come after your new home, but they could place a judgment against the new house for the balance of the old house. So they would put it on title. So when you go to sell that house, you either have to pay that judgment or they come after you some other way. So the types of short sales that you're going to run into: traditional short sale, a Freddie or Fannie short sale is a government-backed short sale. FHA, USDA, VA, reverse mortgage. These are just types of short sales, and I'm going to tell you why you want to know what type of short sale you're sitting with your homeowner. When you're sitting with your homeowner, why you need to know that information before you list the property. How to find this information up. We have a slide here how you can look up who the investor of the short sale is. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it just because we're going to be pushing at the end of this presentation. We're always lost for time. The registry can hold a clue as to who the investor of the loan is. So again, Freddie and Fannie may be an investor of a loan, and Wells Fargo may be the servicer of the loan. So the homeowner may sit with you and say, well, Wells Fargo owns my mortgage. Well, really, Freddie or Fannie may own the mortgage, but Wells Fargo may service it. So these are ways that you can find out who the investor of the loan is before you list your property, and I'll get into why you want to know who the investor of the loan is before you list, okay? How to figure this out: if you go to the Registry of Deeds, here are some clues that will tell you who the investor of the loan is. So here's why. So I picked the most popular types of short sales that you're going to run into when you go to list your property. You have a Freddie and Fannie short sale. Why do you need to know it's Freddie or Fannie back? Because when you're sitting with your homeowner, you can say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, you're still living in your property. I can get you $3,000 as a moving incentive at closing. It's kind of a nice incentive for the homeowner. Why would this be a good incentive in a short sale?
Because if they're out of our property, it might be easier to sell.
They don't have money to pay the moving costs.
Right. They may not have money to pay the moving costs. What happens? A lender is getting shorted money. Do you think they want to see the homeowner get money at closing? Right. So most short sales, you're not getting money at closing because the bank is getting shorted on their note, right? They don't want to give the homeowner money. But Freddie and Fannie have a nice little program that they'll give you $3,000 at closing. And they call it a moving incentive. So it's a nice thing that you can disclose when you're sitting with a homeowner and you know they have a Freddie or Fannie back short sale. They pay $6,000 to a junior position lien holder, and it has to be a mortgage. So if you have a home equity line, that's a mortgage, or a second mortgage 80-20, right, loan, $6,000 is what they'll give toward settling that loan. So let's take our prior example. You can sell this property for $350,000. Let's say there's $320,000 on the first lien, and there's $30,000 on the second lien, right? You can offer the second lien holder, the $30,000 lien holder, $6,000 to settle that $30,000, right? So they would have to write off $24,000. That's what it's about. But it's a nice thing to say we can get 6,000. They won't pay toward other liens on title.